happening now? We're about to send you back to the future!
Welcome to the Back to the Revuture 2022 Halloween Frightfest Spooktacular. The show where we take a horror film that one of us or both of us might not have seen before, and we take a deadly look at it now. I'm Drew Bridger.
I'm average.
Adding a little bit of light in the darkness is Amber Inch, bringing her unique style of comedy to an otherwise dark and dreary podcast. So how you doing?
Fine, thanks.
We're back again. Can you believe we've done 3 of these now?
3 Halloween ones.
Yeah, this is our 3rd one. I couldn't quite think of something as big and spectacular as last year's one, where we were watching 2 different ones back to back.
Yeah, why did we do that?
Because I thought it was a really good idea. And if anyone out there is waiting for the game show aspect that we did last year to make a triumphant return, I can tell you, you're going to be waiting a very long time, because it's not going to happen this year.
What was it? What did we do?
Spoiler alert.
What was it?
Do you remember last year we did Slasher Fiction? Come on down, let's play a game. Where I basically quizzed you on the sequels to the 2 films that we watched, because we did Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
And they both have a bunch of sequels, and I was like, which character had a sequel that involved this?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do kind of, yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad that was such a memorable thing that I spent so long doing.
It was a year ago.
It was a year ago, but, you know, I thought it was going to be impressive enough that you would remember that fondly for years to come and go, do you remember the Halloween where you did a quiz just for me, a quiz show just for me? From what I can remember, I think you actually did very well on it.
I don't remember.
I think you guessed some of the answers.
Well, I guessed all of the answers, because I didn't know anything about it, so obviously.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I made it pretty easy. A lot of the answers were 50-50.
Right. Oh, okay, right.
No, because the answers were 50-50.
Oh, yeah, you did really
Was it
well
Freddy
at that.
or was it Jason?
I made it really easy.
Well,
I
tried.
It's been insulting. You did very well on that, but I made it easy. Right.
I mean, most of the answers were, was it Freddy or was it Jason?
Well,
so,
yeah, but
50-50.
It's not.
But
it's not gonna be Clifford the Big Red Dog, is it?
Although that would be a really scary sequel. Jason and Freddy versus Clifford the Big Red Dog. He's red for a reason. The marketing pretty much writes itself after that point. So we are back for the 3rd time doing our Halloween special, which is always interesting because you're really not a fan of horror films.
No,
like,
you keep making me watch them anyway.
Well, I mean, what else are we going to do for Halloween? I mean, I'll be honest, for this year it was a toss-up between what we ended up watching and The Exorcist.
No.
And even I am like, nope to The Exorcist. There is something about that film that
Because it's a child.
yeah, to my very core, makes me just go, nope. I think if I'm being honest with myself, I would be hard pushed to make a decision if you were like holding a gun to my head. I don't know why you would be, but in this scenario, you have one and it's pointed at me.
Yeah.
And you said, choose now between watching Child's Play or The Exorcist. I think I would be hard pushed to pick between the two of them which one I'd have to stomach my way through.
I've seen Child's Play, the new one. It's fine.
Yeah, the new one is probably okay. It probably is. The original is the stuff of nightmares.
Why is it different though?
There's...
It's not. It's probably fine.
Do not call into question my fears and phobias, okay?
I know, but it's not.
They exist
the
for a
film's not that
reason.
bad.
Fear exists for a reason. It's there to protect you. And if I have a fear of dolls and mannequins and stuff like that, it's for a reason. It's because they're evil.
No.
They are cursed.
That's an irrational fear because a doll isn't going to come and beat you up. And if it does, it's tiny and you'd be able to overpower it.
Hey, look, people have irrational fears of spiders, but there are still some that can kill you.
That's
okay?
not no, but I don't think that's an irrational fear.
Maybe
If
it's
some
not.
of them can kill you and you can't tell which ones, that's not irrational.
What to you would be an irrational fear then?
Dolls.
No, right, okay, all right. Everybody laugh at Drew, okay. Other than that one, what would be an irrational fear?
Well, moths probably.
You have a fear of moths.
Yeah, but I know that they're not gonna. They don't intend to harm you. They're actually harmless. An irrational fear is something that you're scared of that's harmless. Even when people have people have that phobia of buttons or something. I mean, yeah, like.
Hey, you can choke on a button. Okay, that's not an irrational fear. That's there to protect you. Okay.
That's what I was gonna say.
I know.
But I would tell. Do you know why I was gonna say that?
I'm sure you're going to tell me. Is it because you nearly choked on a button once?
No.
Okay.
When my brother was really young,
Okay.
I mean, like 5 probably. So like,
Sure.
So now he's at the age where he can like communicate things properly and they start to see things and they like start going to school and stuff. So you can. It's like a proper person coming out.
Yeah, sure. Like they become an actual person.
Yeah. So
yeah.
he was maybe 6 or something.
Okay.
And my granny bought him a really. It's probably not even funny when I tell this story, but it was just funny to hear a child say it.
Okay.
She bought him this really nice, like, new pajama set. It was like a nice little shorts and like a little shirt, obviously like a button-down shirt, and it was really nice.
Buttons.
And it looked really cute. And she put it on him and she started doing up the buttons. And he looked down and he was like, "Buttons, I'm not wearing that. I might choke on them." And it was just weird because I was like, I'd never even thought of anybody thinking that you could choke in your sleep on buttons that were attached to a shirt before. It's like, where are you getting that? Like, what have you seen as a child that would make you think that that's what's going to happen? And it was just like, we just thought it was hilarious because he was like, "I'm not wearing that shirt. I might choke on the buttons."
And to this day, your brother still has a fear of buttons. So, I mean, it's served him well. He's survived this long.
He had weird things.
Everything he owns is just Velcro.
He wouldn't let me. He wouldn't touch my jewellery at all.
Really?
So if I had a ring, and I said, "Oh, can you hold this for a second? Because like, say I need to put my. I mean, that doesn't happen very often. But if you want to put your hand somewhere or reach something, and you don't want your ring to fall off, whatever reason,
Right? Yeah.
And I said to him, "Can you hold like my... I don't... Can you hold my ring?
It's okay, it's the Halloween special. We're doing an 18+ film, so it's okay. We can get away with it.
And
this isn't so much of a family podcast anymore.
he would just freak. Like, freak.
Really?
I would say, touch my necklace. Ah! And it would, it was horrible. It was like, hold your hand out, and I'd put something in his hand, let my hand go, and if it was like an earring, he'd be like, ah! He hated
Wow, weird.
Because I always asked him why. What happens when you get a, you say to a 6 or 7-year-old, what happens when you get a girlfriend? He's like, well, I just won't go out with somebody who wears jewellery because I don't like that.
Good luck with that.
He's fine now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just asking why, and he just couldn't explain.
See, I feel like an irrational fear, and I know I'll get a bit of backlash from it from people that actually do suffer from it. But I feel like an irrational fear...
Yeah, I'm not belittling it. I'm just saying that's what they are.
I feel like an irrational fear is like that weird fear of holes that people have. But here's the thing. I can get it. I get it. Like that weird texture. It is strange. And it is,
well,
you know,
it depends.
when you
What
see...
do you mean? Like, are you talking about like holes in sponges?
No, yeah. You know, I forget what it's called. It begins with a T. Yeah, that one. That one. I won't make you say it.
No, because I don't know it.
But I feel like, even though it's an understandable thing, I feel like it is also slightly irrational.
Yeah, because I think it depends what... I mean, they can't choose what holes to be scared of.
I think it's something about the texture of it.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Right. So I was going to say, if you meant a hole in the ground, that's not irrational because you could die.
Yeah, okay, right, yeah, like a hole in the ground.
But I feel like
makes sense.
Fear is a fear, obviously. That's fine, you can't help it. You can't help something that you're scared of. But it makes it irrational depending on the place. It's like if I'm scared of sharks and I'm in the ocean in Australia where I know they are, that's not irrational.
No.
Because I'm scared that a shark's going to eat me because... Well, not going to eat me, but I'm scared of a shark turning up in a place where sharks are.
Yes. If you're scared of sharks and you live in like a landlocked country...
Southampton.
Yeah.
There's no point in that.
No. Right.
So you can have the fear
in proximity
in
to
where
what it is. Yeah. Okay, I get that. I mean, another one would be, I would say that, you know, maybe balloons is an irrational fear. I know I've known people that have a fear of balloons.
It's
strangely
probably
enough,
the sound.
I think it is, but also I believe that they might also have been people that saw it at a very young age. And now the balloon is like a harbinger of death to them. So it's like, yeah, maybe not so irrational. But speaking of fears and fear of the unknown, maybe fear of your fellow man.
What?
I know. We are looking this Halloween at 1982's John Carpenter's 1982. It doesn't belong to 1982. 1982 didn't make it. I pluralized the inoperative word there. John Carpenter's 1982 horror classic, The Thing.
I didn't know it was a horror classic. Isn't this like a sci-fi?
So, yeah, I mean, it is kind of sci-fi, but it's only sci-fi in the element of it's an alien entity. You know, everything else
but they're
about
doing
it.
Experiments on it, or like trying to. They're scientists, aren't they?
Yeah, but nothing else about it is necessarily science fiction. You know? Like, everything else other than the fact that it's an alien entity that can shapeshift and take on forms. Everything else is very
like you're an explorer in the middle of Antarctica and an alien life form tries to imitate you.
Yeah.
Or your people, whatever. That's sci-fi, isn't it?
I think it is sci-fi,
if it was a book, it would be sci-fi.
It was a book. It was
there we go. Was it a sci-fi book?
I mean, I feel like it's hard if you're not Stephen King to write horror books or R.L. Stein, really, because I mean, Goosebumps is still
There's
horror.
loads of horror books.
I mean, here's the thing. I feel like horror relies on playing into people's fears, and one fear with horror films in particular is almost like the inability to escape the situation that you're in. You know, so if you're watching a horror film in a cinema, you kind of feel like you can't leave, really. So that's part of it. But I feel with a horror book, you can just put the book down at any point. So the key to writing really, really good horror books is to tap into people's fears, but do it in a way that they want to keep reading.
Yeah.
You know? So I feel like there's really only a small handful of people that have managed to do that and write a book that is not just horror in the sense of, oh, the material of it is quite dark, is quite horrific in nature, what you're reading about in the descriptions of things, but horror in the sense of, as you're reading it, you are physically scared.
Yeah.
So I do feel like that's kind of a difficult thing to pull off, because otherwise Mary Shelley's Frankenstein does get lumped into something like science fiction, because it is science and it is dealing with bringing things back from the dead.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is sci-fi, but sci-fi does lend itself so well to horror because of it being a fear of the unknown, fear of the future, fear of alien, things like that.
Yeah.
So I feel like horror and sci-fi cross over so much in films and in literature that...
Yeah, that's why I think they've got sci-fi thriller.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's sci-fi, but it's got a bit of a ooh.
Yeah.
Bit of a creepy feeling.
See, I would say Blade Runner is sci-fi thriller because it's very tense throughout the film. Like, you don't really know what's going to happen next, but it is all set in a futuristic Los Angeles as well.
Yeah.
So I feel like with The Thing, it's very, very much in a realistic and believable situation, which is where the horror element comes into it. I'll come clean about this film. I will actually admit that even though I knew about this film, I'd read about this film because of how much of a big deal and a classic and a masterpiece of writing that this film is. I knew that much. I haven't actually seen this film before. So this is a new one to me as well. And it's one of these films that I have actually been scared to admit. Fearful, you might say. Have a phobia of admitting that I hadn't seen this film before, purely because of the impact that it had at the time. So this was very much like Evil Dead in the way that its effects and its design and its creature effects and everything were what attracted people to the film.
Okay.
And even though Evil Dead was at an era in these, like, quote-unquote video nasties era, and I really hate using that term because we learn about it so much in media, and they built it up to be these horrific things. Then you watch them and it's like, oh,
yeah,
and it's like, oh,
yeah,
it's
but
like...
you watched it in the 2000s.
Yeah, there is that. But if anything, it's kind of showing the progression of things since then, really. Like, we've come so far now to look back on that and go, oh yeah, it's really weird that this got banned when now we have, I don't know, Human Centipede or something like that, you know?
Yeah, I suppose.
But I guess with the advent of YouTube, like, if something gets banned, you can literally
just
just
go and
watch
anyway.
it. Yeah, you just pirate the copy of it, so it doesn't matter. It's still gonna get out,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
In the days of VHS copies, it was a lot harder to find things.
Yeah, exactly.
But since we haven't seen the film before, I can safely say I kind of knew what it was about because I had to read about it for film studies and stuff, for horror things and everything. But you didn't really know anything about this film.
No,
going
well,
in,
you
did
didn't
you?
actually tell me what we were watching until the film started and
I
I
like
saw
to-
the title of it. So I couldn't have any time to think, what is this film going to be about? Because you didn't tell me what it was.
I like to,
So I don't know.
well, in fairness...
I didn't have a thought of what it was going to be about because as soon as it came on and I knew what it was, I started watching it.
In fairness, I did drop a few hints the last few episodes building up to this.
What did you say?
Well,
When you said the word thing a lot.
Yeah, I did. Yep.
How am I supposed
You
to know what that
nailed it.
means?
Well done. In our podiversary anniversary episode, when we were talking about things that we had coming up, I was like, we're going to be doing a horror film for Halloween, but I won't tell you what it is because it's a whole thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
if I
See,
didn't know
you
that-
got to listen for the little details sometimes.
If I didn't know this film existed, I wouldn't have picked up on that, would I?
Oh, right, yeah, I suppose my plan really did rest on you knowing about a film called The Thing, but... So what you might
Well,
not
I kind
know...
of knew, but I thought that the film that was called The Thing was from the 50s.
Well, interestingly, this film is actually a remake of that film from the 50s. But that one is called The Thing from Another World.
Oh, right.
And... even more interestingly, that film, The Thing from Another World, is the film that's playing on the TV in Halloween, on a Halloween night.
Okay, yeah.
And even more
Yeah,
interestingly,
see, that's all aliens, isn't it?
Halloween was directed by John Carpenter,
Yeah.
who directed this film, which is a remake of the film that's playing in his film that he made called Halloween.
He must have just really liked this film.
And that isn't even trivia. That isn't even is a trivia worth of time. Do you know what? You just get that one for free.
Great!
Yeah.
Now I have to hear an extra one.
You have to hear quite a few because there's
Oh,
some good stuff
no.
involved in
Good
this.
stuff?
Oh, there's some good stuff.
Nothing happened in the film.
There's some good stuff.
Okay.
So what did you think this film was going to be about before watching it?
No, I didn't have time to think of what it was going to be about.
Oh, okay, right.
Because you didn't tell me what the film was and you didn't tell me what the film was.
I thought I dropped enough hints that you knew
I
what it was going to
didn't
be.
know that it existed.
Okay.
How can that even be a thing?
Oh, man, I really
What
shot
do you
myself
mean?
in the foot for this,
What do you
didn't I?
mean what do you mean you dropped hints? No, you didn't.
I mean, I practically told you.
No, you didn't.
Alright, so you had no idea that this film even existed. That's fine.
But even
That's
if you
cool.
asked me what it was about, I wouldn't have. I mean, how can you think what that's going to be about when it's called The Thing? It could literally be about anything.
Yeah,
So I wouldn't have had an idea.
no, that's a fair point. Like I said, it was a toss-up between this and The Exorcist, and I even contemplated The Fly
Oh.
at one point. But that's really a little bit like body horror kind of thing, and I don't really
Well,
know.
this is really.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of is. This kind of is. So the reason that this ended up being such a big deal was all of the animatronic effects
Yeah, they were really good.
that are used in it, and a lot of what you see I would say 95% of what you see in this film is all practical effects.
Yeah.
And I think that for things where it was vines and the tentacles
Yeah, the
and
stuff
stuff
that's moving around.
coming over things,
Yeah,
I think that they reversed the shots for that. So they basically kind of pulled
Some of
all
that
the
didn't
stuff
look real,
off
though.
of it. Well, yeah, I mean, that's probably why, because it doesn't move in the same way when you reverse the shot. If they're pulling it all off of what it's meant to be crawling over, film it moving off of it, and then reverse the shot so it's going back onto it.
Yeah.
It doesn't move in the way that you would expect it to move, but then at the same time, it's also not a real creature, so how do you know how it would move? So
Yeah,
I think there's that element of it that made people want to go and watch this film. But what did you think of it?
I thought it was quite boring.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I was expected to be a bit more. It was like I was expecting it to be a bit more tense around kind of who was infected and who wasn't, because there's obviously only a few of them living there, and they're in close quarters. So you would expect that pretty much all of them would be infected, but you're trying to work out who it is. But I just don't think it was tense enough. I wasn't really tense about it.
Okay.
Didn't really.
Because I think the whole thing is, you know, who can you trust? Who has been out of your sight for too long? You know, it's all around suspicion, really.
Yeah, well, I know, but that didn't make any sense because they wanted everybody to stay in the same place so that they could all keep an eye on each other, and their plan was always to split up.
Right, but they stayed. This is the thing; they stayed in groups, so it was never gonna be like all three of the people that was in one group.
Yeah, but you don't know. Pretty much was, because there was only two of them that wasn't infected in the end anyway.
Well, interesting that you say that. Would you like your first bit of Is the Trivia Worth the Time?
No.
Okay, alright. Well, you're gonna get it anyway.
I know, that's why I say no.
Hey, look, it's good stuff, okay? So obviously, without... you know, it kind of goes without saying, we are going to be talking spoilers about the thing. So if you haven't seen the film...
It's too late now, I ruined it.
Well, yeah, well, not really. But if you haven't seen John Carpenter's The Thing, and you don't want the end part of it spoiled for you, maybe take a little bit of time, treat yourself for Halloween, go watch it now. But obviously, if you know how the film ends, it obviously ends a little bit kind of ambiguously, right? Because it's Keith David and Kurt Russell that are left alive, right? So, according to an give me a second. Apocryphal story first reported on reddit.com in February 2013. When asked about the ambiguous ending of the film, John Carpenter responded that he never understood how could there be any confusion about whether Childs or MacReady are human or not. Because the last scene shows, and this is quote, Kurt Russell and Keith David staring each other down, harshly backlit. It's completely, glaringly obvious that Kurt Russell is breathing and Keith David is not.
That's not obvious.
Apparently, it is completely, glaringly obvious that Kurt Russell is breathing and Keith David is not.
But have we ever been told that people that are infected don't breathe? We've never been told that.
I think it's kind of alluded to that because the alien entity takes over a person so completely, and because they do the blood test, right? So he says with a regular person, the blood is just tissue. But with this entity, each part of the blood and the cell and everything like that is alive and is trying to survive, because it takes over the host like cell by cell, right? So I would imagine that if that was the case, there would be no need for it to be breathing, because it's like every cell in it for itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know, but that is a bit like, what, did you work that out when you were watching the film?
I mean, I kind of figured that...
What? You were watching that film and you thought, oh, obviously they don't have to breathe. That went through your head.
I mean, I didn't obviously think obviously they don't have to breathe. But I also thought, if this thing goes into the ice and lays dormant and can then be revived again at some other point, it just goes into like hibernation or something, then surely it wouldn't need to be breathing, because otherwise it would have to be somewhere where there's plenty of air and plenty of oxygen. But if it gets encased in ice, that's not going to happen.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. The only reason why my brain would go, oh, this happens and this happens and this happens, which obviously means that they don't need to breathe, is because I've heard him say that.
Right.
I would have thought that if I was watching the film.
That's fair enough.
Because nobody ever mentioned it.
Well,
so it's not glaringly obvious.
I guess it's not glaringly
that he
obvious.
wasn't breathing.
Maybe it's
he
glaring.
was drinking at the time.
Yeah, I suppose it's glaringly obvious to the guy that made the film.
Well, yeah,
Yeah. So does that put the ending of the film into like a different perspective for you?
Don't think so, because I thought one of them probably was fake anyway.
And the chances were it wasn't McCready.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
But
I would guess so.
because the film follows him so closely, and there's only like a couple of points where you don't see him for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
And then after that point, he proves that it's not him with the blood test. So I think after that point, you follow him quite closely as the grounds by which you know this person is categorically not the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were there any moments during this that really kind of took you by surprise?
I don't think so.
You didn't really jump at any points in this, did you? No. I was expecting you to jump a little bit more.
You did?
Hey, what? Yes, I did. But that's also because I was like, I know the bit that's coming, and I know what's about to happen, but I don't know when it's going to happen.
You just said you'd never seen the film.
So I knew the whole blood test bit. I knew the whole blood test bit because that gets referenced a lot.
Oh.
It gets referenced in lots of other things. The whole, it reacts to heat, and they put the hot needle on it, and the blood goes like that. It's part of it.
I've never seen that anywhere.
No?
No.
I thought that was a really famous bit of this.
How has this happened? I normally know about not most films, but I know about popular films, even if I haven't seen them, because I've seen references to things. But I don't know, totally have no idea about this.
Well, I think, to an extent, the whole game of Among Us was based on the thing.
Oh, well, I obviously haven't played that.
No. Well, we should play Among Us sometime.
No.
I think it would be interesting. It'd be interesting to see how good you are at deceiving people. It's a whole
Probably
deception
not that good,
game.
I don't know.
But I jumped a couple of times because it was at points that I kind of knew what was coming up, but I didn't know the exact moment that it was going to hit, and then it just wham, it just goes, it hits you. Like when I said, I've got a bad feeling about what they're doing to the guy on the table with the defibrillator. And he goes to push down on him, and the whole chest opens up, and he takes his hands up. I was like, oh, and I knew something was going to happen with him. And I was like, oh, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? And then it just goes.
We interrupt this show to bring you a brief word from our sponsors.
Amber, I would like to tell you about Greenbird gift baskets. Cool, you're interested?
Interested.
Excellent, I'm glad you said that, because Greenbird Gift Baskets is a small local business based in Southampton offering gourmet gift baskets beautifully hand-wrapped in biodegradable cellophane. They use products from small local businesses wherever they can and are perfect gifts for weddings, birthdays, baby showers, or simply as a thank you.
We are passionate about supporting small local businesses who offer delicious products and share our values on sustainability. There is a selection of baskets available online, Greenbird gift baskets at square.site, and all baskets are totally customisable for dietary needs and tastes.
Greenbird gift baskets offer sweet, savoury and mixed baskets as well as picnic boxes, and prices start from just £25 for a gift basket. Amber, they can even add wine or fizz for an extra special touch.
Collection is available from Southampton, or they can deliver to surrounding areas. So visit Greenbird Gift Baskets at square.site and check them out on Facebook and Instagram at Greenbird Gift Baskets.
Oh, and make sure to tell them that Back to the Revuture sent you, yeah?
And now we return to your regularly scheduled programming.
When we started this film, you very nearly got angry at me because you were like, oh, it's an 18. Oh, I'm gonna be so scared of this. Why did you put this on? Why did you put this on? I'm gonna jump so hard. And then you didn't.
Yeah, no, because I didn't realise it was about aliens and stuff. I'm not really that bothered about that.
Yeah.
And obviously you can tell that it's not real.
So,
They did well, though. It was really well made. It was really well done, especially for 1982. I think some of the stuff looks better than some of the stuff now.
yes.
So that was good.
There is a lot of stuff in this film that holds up today. And
yeah,
this is
a lot.
yeah. And this is absolutely why I am an advocate of practical effects. Like,
Yeah.
if you can do it for real.
Nobody wants to do that anymore, though, do they?
No, it's because I feel like there's less hassle involved.
Yeah, there probably is, but
In
then it's
CGI.
a shame because people that are good at practical effects are dying out. It's going to die out because it's not going to be needed anymore.
I feel like
And-
there will always be a need for it somewhere. You know?
Yeah, you say somewhere, but you want it to be mainstream, where most things are practical effects
Oh,
and
yeah.
just looked at
Oh, yeah.
graphics to kind of finish it off. Because when they think that it looks better, it's obviously more expensive. Well, I don't know about nowadays, maybe. I don't know. But it's expensive anyway. And I don't think it looks better.
No.
If you get a good practical effects artist that knows what they're doing.
And here's the thing. I say that a lot
Although I
on
do
this
apologise
podcast.
about Jurassic Park because actually,
We peaked at Jurassic Park.
and none of that was real, really, was it?
No. Well, no. So the first Jurassic Park, they did a lot with animatronics. Yes, that's why it looks so real, because they actually built a T-Rex to use in that film, and the effects of that are incredible because the whole scene where you first see the T-Rex is part CGI, part
That's what I mean.
animatronics.
Like, I kind of thought that they had a big thing where they didn't need the practical effects guy as much because they had like conquered movement for the first time ever on like CGI.
Yeah, but they did still need the animatronics and to an extent like puppeteers and stuff for the T-Rex head and a couple of the velociraptor scenes.
Yeah.
You see them kind of moving in a way that is puppeteered and everything. So I think it's the mix, the balance in Jurassic Park between practical and CGI effects that made it what it was. But even the sequels to Jurassic Park aren't as convincingly good as Jurassic Park.
No, the new one even.
And we peaked. That is the peak, the pinnacle of what can be done with effects.
Yeah.
I personally think.
Yeah.
And I think of it like this. The Imagineers at Disney have built such convincing animatronics for
Yeah.
things like the Na'vi river journey,
Yeah.
and the movement is so smooth and fluid, and on shows like The Mandalorian, where they have Baby Yoda, Grogu, a lot of that is actual robotics.
Yeah.
And the way he moves and everything like that, so it looks a lot more real. So that's why I'm a big advocate of practical effects. And in a day and age where you can do that for things like theme parks, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
that should also be
You can do
put
that for
into...
film.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And obviously, yeah, things like Avatar, you need them to be leaping about and doing stuff and, you know.
Yeah.
But they built a robotic Spider-Man
Yeah,
for Avengers Campus that can literally swing through the air.
It keeps crashing into buildings though, so I don't know.
It is so... Okay, it is so funny when it crashes into... I know that you're not supposed to laugh, and I know that it breaks the magic of it a little bit, but it is so funny on the odd occasion where the wind just isn't right and it just
Yeah.
crashes into the wall.
And then the poor guy playing Spider-Man has to come out and go, that was a bit of a hard one. Oh, that was a bit of a rough turn.
So the biggest crime in history is that he doesn't at that point come out and go, "Oh, my back! Oh, my back!"
They're not allowed to acknowledge that though, are they?
They absolutely should, though.
I know, but
100%
they have to
should.
pretend that film doesn't exist.
Yeah. So, do you want another little bit of Is the Trivia Worth the Time? Because this one's pretty funny, and I think you'll like this one.
Okay.
Okay. 2 characters in the movie are nicknamed Mac, that's MacReady's shorthand nickname, and Windows, a nickname inspired by the fact that the character always wears glasses. Since the film was made in 1982, this is purely coincidental and has nothing to do with Apple and Microsoft's famous rival tech brands. John Carpenter out here predicting the future in 1982. I do find it funny that Mac ended up having to destroy Windows, though, so... Here I am, a Windows user, and even I'm admitting that Mac had to destroy Windows in this film.
What a weenie.
I know, but I thought that was quite funny.
That is kind of funny,
It's
actually.
weird how it's just coincidental.
Yeah.
though. That is strange.
Yeah, that is strange.
There is another one which I also quite like. This is at around the 15-minute mark. When the dog wanders down a hallway and pauses outside a door, a shadow can be seen of one of the men beckoning it in. John Carpenter wanted it to be mysterious which character was involved, so didn't use any of his actors to cast the shadow.
Oh.
It was someone entirely different.
Oh, well, I didn't get that because I just thought it was assumed that it was the guy that liked all the dogs.
Oh, okay. See, this is interesting because this actually proves exactly why he did that. You thought it was the guy that liked all the dogs.
Yeah.
I thought it was the guy who I think it actually was Windows who was the guy I was thinking of.
I don't know who that is.
The guy who was at the radio all the time.
Oh, curly head guy.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I thought it
Why
was
did you
him.
think it was him?
Just because I don't know why. I thought that was the radio room that it was going into.
Oh, I see.
And that's why
No, but
he was sat there.
Obviously, at the time, that's fine. But I thought later on, he said to him, "How long was the dog with you?" And he said, "In the night."
He said, "How long was the dog just wandering around the base?" And he said it was wandering around all night.
I thought he asked him, how long did you have him with you? Because that's why he looked at him and was like, "Oh, it's gonna it would have got him as well because it was in his room with him." That's what I thought.
Well, probably that as well.
That's why I thought he asked that question.
But that's why I thought it was the radio guy. Because I thought that was the radio room and he was still up, like,
I thought it was his
trying
bedroom.
to...
Because it was a small room. There wasn't anything else in there. There was
See-
no other shadows in there.
But that's exactly why he did that, in order to keep it mysterious. So it's not obviously one particular person.
Yeah. I mean, that's true, but I didn't get it was mysterious at the time because I thought it was just obvious. I just assumed that it was the guy who liked all the dogs.
Right. I suppose
Because
so.
that's the guy that the dog kept jumping all over and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Were you suspicious of the dog at the start?
I was suspicious when he was walking down that corridor, actually. And then nothing happened, which was really weird.
Yeah, so...
So he was walking down the corridor looking really menacing. And at first I was like, ah. And then he started going towards the door really slow and really weird. And I went, uh-oh. And then I saw the shadow and I was like, uh-oh. And then it stopped.
Yeah, what I will say is that after John Carpenter had done Halloween before this, and obviously knew how to make a horror film and make it really good, you know, I did feel like some of the scene transitions...
Yeah, he likes to
this...
fade into black, doesn't he, for no reason?
Yeah, I don't know if that was just a stylistic choice for this film in
Probably.
particular, but
Yeah, probably.
I don't think I've watched another John Carpenter film where he's done that.
Maybe
it was
he was
quite-
just trying to get on with the next bit quick.
I feel like it in some bits it was quite jarring
Yeah, but maybe that's why, though.
because maybe because it would just like fade to black and it's like
Yeah, it's probably on purpose.
and then it just started on like
Well, it was
something
obviously
else.
on purpose, but it was probably done with
Yeah.
that meaning in mind.
Very strange, but obviously it cuts away at a point where you're not entirely sure what's happening.
So, yeah.
And you fully expect at that point, with our exposition
You have
to
to guess.
things in horror films, you expect to see the shadow of something happen to the person, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I thought the dog was going to do something.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought you were going to see it happen in the shadow.
Yeah.
But
And then
just
it was like,
doesn't.
oh, it's gone now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So, what part kind of clued you into what might be happening in the film? At what point were you starting to get suspicious of when the dog was gonna do something or turn? Or at what point were you suspicious that it wasn't just a dog?
I was suspicious that it wasn't the dog as soon as the man who was looking at the dog looked at the other guy, and I thought, oh yeah, they're all living together, and it said that it can imitate people and take like you on and stuff.
Mm.
And so I thought, oh, they're diseased.
They're diseased. Well, there was something that would have clued you in a lot sooner. Okay. Now I
Was it
apologize.
the title of the film and the bio of the film.
Yeah. No, it's not. No, and I want to apologize in advance, not just to you, but to everyone listening, and particularly if you are Norwegian. I apologize in advance for what I'm about to do. If you are Norwegian, you probably aren't listening to this unless you're practicing English language, in which case I apologize in advance, but I don't know what sorry is in Norwegian. So, again, this is a massive spoiler for the film, but this is a little bit of trivia here. At around 8 minutes, this happens. The words spoken by the pilot on entering the camp are actually understandable for Norwegians. Albeit broken Norwegian, the line goes, Se til helvete og kom det vekk. Det ikke en bikkje. Det slags ting. Det imiterer... Oh, sorry. Det imiterer en bikkje. Det ikke virkelig. Kom det vekk idioter. This translates to...
It probably doesn't.
Oh, no, that doesn't translate to. What's written here translates. What I said doesn't translate to precisely jack all. Okay? If you are Norwegian and you want to rate that, please do. I don't expect it to be more than a 3. Okay? What I said doesn't translate to jack. What's written here translates roughly to Get the hell out of there. That's not a dog. It's some sort of thing. It's imitating a dog. It isn't real. Get away, you idiots.
Oh.
And that's right before they shoot him.
So that's why they were shooting, because they obviously found things before they got there and were like, you're going to get it as well.
That's why they were shooting at the dog from the helicopter.
Yeah.
And you turned to me and said, why are they shooting at the dog from the helicopter?
For?
And I said, I have an idea as to why they might be, but I'm not going to say because I will probably give away half of the film to you if I said, I think it's because it's an alien. That would have kind of ruined the impact of it for you.
I suppose.
So that's why I didn't really want to say. But I was like, I have a hunch as to why, but I'm not going to say. So, yeah, that was a little bit of a heads up right at the start of the film.
Great.
For you.
I never would have got that.
No. But anyone that's Norwegian that's watching that.
Yeah, probably.
Do you reckon that there were people that could speak Norwegian that were watching this film for the first time and had that bit like, oh. And it's like a little bit kind of ruined for them, but they go, oh, I feel like I've got some inside knowledge here because I speak
What happens
Norwegian.
if you're watching the film dubbed in Norwegian because you're Norwegian and you don't understand English? What happens to that bit?
They're speaking in English in that one. And the rest of it is, they dub the Norwegian over in like English.
But I just feel like maybe they're just watching it and then they go, why have they just given the plot of the film in the first 10 minutes?
Yeah, that's why they dub it into
no one
English.
else can understand.
So then you're watching it in Norwegian.
A lot of people can talk English.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe they dub it into, I don't know, something like Spanish or something. Welsh. Oh my God. Could you imagine that? Get away from that dog, boyo.
No, I meant the Welsh language.
I
not a
know.
Welsh accent.
I know. I was going for the comedy aspect of it. Oh, you don't want to be petting that dog, boyo. I think it's some sort of unnatural thing. Don't know where it's come from. You better put it back.
Sound like Fireman Sam. Who'd Fireman Sam, the guy from Fireman Sam turned up?
Yeah. But they were Welsh in Fireman Sam.
I don't think Fireman Sam was, though, was he?
I think he was. They were all from Pontypridd.
I know, but I don't think he was.
I feel like he might have been slightly Welsh. Are you thinking of Jupiter, the guy that's really Welsh in that?
Jupiter?
His name's Jupiter, isn't it? Oh no, the truck's called Jupiter.
I don't know.
Dang.
I don't know.
I am not
You're
remembering
talking
this
about
very
Elvis.
well. Elvis. He's the really Welsh guy. That's right.
And Norman. Norman!
Norman! Why is there a toad in the sweetie jar?
I really want to watch Fireman Sam now.
No one could have predicted that our Halloween episode would descend into anarchy and end with us wanting to watch Fireman Sam. Wow, who could have predicted that? That's the twist ending that we need for our Halloween special.
Fireman Sam.
Yeah, just we end up watching Fireman Sam.
Oh, I love it.
Instead.
I loved it so much. I loved it.
See, this is the thing. You got to cut horror films with something
Yeah,
palatable.
now I'm going to watch Fireman Sam on YouTube so I forget about horror film and feel good.
And Although
I didn't have to do it with this one because this wasn't that bad.
No.
I'm a wimp and I wasn't even scared.
Well, that's good. That's good. I mean, I don't want to outrightly scare you with anything that we watch, but that
I
being
always
said,
think that I'm a wuss. And then as soon as I actually watch the films, I'm always like, oh, that wasn't bad. And I think like your imagination for what it could be is way worse.
Well, we did recently watch the 2018 Halloween
Yesterday.
movie. We watched it in two halves. We watched one half
I know, but I didn't
day,
really see a lot of the first half.
and then we watched the second half about a week later, I think we just got round to it because we had to stop watching because it was so late when it was on, and it was like, oh, we'll catch the second half on catch up or something. But that was pretty scary.
That was quite scary, yeah.
And you came out the end of that going, oh, actually, it wasn't so bad. I think that you can actually stomach a lot more horror films than you say you can. I'm suspicious of you.
No, it's not that I do it on purpose. It's that I don't know that I can.
Yeah.
It's not that in my head, I go, oh, I'm actually fine. I just don't like saying it because I don't want to watch more horror films. It's like, I genuinely think that I can't handle them, or I'm a scaredy cat or whatever. And then when I watch it, it's never as bad
as you make
as I think
out
it's
to
going to
be.
be.
I think we should try another couple.
No.
No? Because you did Halloween on our first year.
Yeah, in the broad daylight.
Admittedly, we did watch it in broad daylight. And you did...
He's scary.
He is scary. If that guy round the corner is still dressing up as Michael Myers on Halloween, we're going to have a really tough time.
Why?
Well, because you said you were walking the dog and...
Yeah, no, but I'm not going out this time.
No, that's true. I'm not going out after dark this time.
Definitely not after that.
So do you feel like this film would have had a lot more relevance if people had watched this before COVID came out?
Yeah. Yeah, because then we would have known not to have been drinking from... Well, no, that doesn't make... No, that's stupid. Because they didn't want to be...
No, because it was when the guy said if even one part of this gets into someone, it could take them over and completely change them.
Yeah, in 27,000 hours. No, was it?
Yeah, 27,000 hours.
The whole of the population is going to be infected, which is fine. But no, but I mean, like...
But that's 3 years.
They tried to separate everyone, and they said... I don't even think we should be eating from the same can.
Yeah.
So they can't even do that, which is... That's, I mean, yeah. But they drank from the same bottle.
Yeah, that's weird.
Every time. I don't know.
Maybe
it was only the aliens that drank from the bottle.
I did like the sentiment.
Maybe it actually was.
Maybe.
Because when you see
yes.
McReady.
Macready.
He isn't drinking out of the bottle, he's drinking out of a glass.
Yeah. That is a good point.
When he's recording his diary.
Yeah.
He's drinking out of a glass.
And actually, at that point, there is a sentiment that he says that I wholeheartedly agree with, which is, he says, no one can trust anyone anymore, and we're all very tired.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, man, I feel you there. That's the statement of the century right there.
Was Kurt Russell a heartthrob when he was in films, when he was younger?
Do you know... It's weird.
Like, it's not really for me, but I was wondering when I was watching it, do people find him, like, really quite attractive?
I feel like he wasn't a heartthrob in so much as someone like Patrick Swayze was a heartthrob, or Richard Gere was a heartthrob. But John Travolta was a heartthrob.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. How dare I forget that? I do feel like he was, in a way, an attractive guy in the sense that he was like an action star. So, in the way that Bruce Willis wasn't a heartthrob, but people really liked Bruce Willis, or Jason Statham wasn't a heartthrob, but women kind of really found Jason Statham attractive.
He's like a hard guy that gets on with stuff.
Right. That's what I think of Kurt Russell as being.
I suppose. He played Elvis, I think.
Kurt Russell?
Yeah.
He might have done in one film. He's been in a lot. He has a very long
And he's
career.
Santa.
He is. Maybe we should watch that this year.
I already watched that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Ah, I didn't. You must have watched that without me.
There's been 2 of them. I didn't see the second one.
Oh, okay. See, where I try to watch a new horror film every year around Halloween, I also try to watch a new Christmas movie, and I'm running out of Christmas movies.
No, you don't. You don't try and watch a new Christmas movie. You try and watch Muppets Christmas Carol every single year on repeat.
Yeah, but before that, I want to get a new one out.
Yeah.
was like, right, I'll watch my new one for the year. Now back to something I know, something I'm familiar with, something that is comforting to me, and that is Muppets Christmas Carol. Maybe The Grinch, if there's time.
Elf.
Elf and Muppet Christmas Carol, both are like must-dos. Grinch, if there's time.
I know, because like I kind of want to save. I don't want to watch The Grinch every single time because I want to keep it funny. So I want to like give it a turn or something, so that the next time I watch it, it's still funny.
It's been a while since you've watched it at that point. It's still going to be funny whenever he goes, Dad, move it. You're still going to laugh anyway, so you know that you're going to laugh at that.
I mean, he is funny because there are parts that you forget and then you watch it again and it's just, it's hilarious.
So, has The Thing brought you back round on John Carpenter and Kurt Russell?
What do you mean?
Well, you weren't much of a fan of one of the films that they made together that came out after this.
Oh, I just remembered that we've seen him in another film.
Yes. Which was Big Trouble in Little China.
Is that John Carpenter?
It was John Carpenter.
Oh, now I know why this one was so boring.
That was all the way back in...
Why is it when them two get together, it turns into Borefest?
Wow. Wow. Scathing review. Wow.
No. I just couldn't work out whether it was supposed to be a comedy or not, and it was confusing me. So that was my fault, not theirs. I totally admit that.
For Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
It is a comedy. Absolutely. It's a comedy action.
But it just wasn't comedy enough, and I got confused. Oh, anyway.
The comedy, as we established, came from having a big guy in a little chair and a little guy in a big chair.
Yeah, once.
That was
the 5 minute of comedy that they had.
That was the comedy from you. The size of the chair. But I think that they took a lot of the practical effects from this film into Big Trouble in Little China, which made it more entertaining. Particularly, for some reason, the guy who kills himself by like inflating.
Yeah.
At one point, I remember that being a thing in Big Trouble in Little China, and I feel like that's something that was made possible by the practical effects that's in this film. And also, weirdly, the monster effects, because there's monsters in Big Trouble in Little China as well. And I feel like some of the creature effects...
It was probably all the same people then, I suppose.
I reckon it might have been.
It makes sense to. If you've already worked with them and you know they're good.
Yeah. I reckon. I know that the guy that worked on the practical effects in The Thing was only 22 at the time. Wow. This is something I vaguely quickly read on the trivia. He was only 22 at the time, and it was one of his first big jobs. And it made it such a cult hit that this guy basically went on to have like a great career based entirely off of his work on The Thing.
Yeah. I mean, it was good.
Yeah.
He did well.
This film also came out in the same year that Blade Runner did, that I mentioned earlier as well, which is quite a strange coincidence that these two films came out in the same year.
Yeah, see, Blade Runner I've heard of.
And they weren't initially as big, as widely received as they'd hoped, because they also... Both those films came out the same year that Steven Spielberg's E.T. came out, which was one of the biggest selling films of the year. But here's the thing. Here's literally The Thing. Okay? Both The Thing and Blade Runner are now considered to be among the greatest films ever made.
I know, that's what happens, isn't it? They don't get appreciated in their time.
It's so weird how they say that art is subjective and, you know, an artist is never appreciated in their time. But I just feel like this film is something that has proven itself over time to be great in its own right and keep people coming back.
Yeah.
Even though you found it boring,
Yeah, I did.
interestingly. So I think we need to decide now. I think that we need to give John Carpenter's The Thing a rating. So if you are new to this show, or if you are a returning listener to the show, you might already know that the person that hasn't seen the film gets to give the film a rating, but every episode what the rating is out of changes. So do you want to rate The Thing first, or should I?
You can.
Okay, all right. So I am going to give it 4.
Oh.
I think that this is a really good film. I think you're right. I think that there are some slow parts in this film. And even though those slow parts are meant to be quite tense, with the suspicion and the intrigue and the mistrust and everything like that, I did get the sense of it didn't really grab me as much as I thought it was going to.
Yeah, I didn't.
Because I was kind of so on the edge of, like, I just want to know. I want to see something definitive. You know?
Yeah.
Like, the suspicion went on for so long that I got to a point where I was like, I just definitively want to know now.
Well, I wasn't even bothered. That was the opposite for me, because it went on for so long and was so kind of like, the jeopardy wasn't there enough that I was just like, oh, whatever.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Oh, who cares? They've got it. They don't have it. Oh.
But I'm gonna give it out of. I'm gonna give it out of Chess Whizzers.
What?
Because, no, what was it called? Chess Wizard.
Oh,
or
Chess
something.
Wizard.
I thought it was Chess Whiz or
I thought you
something
said
like
chest. I was like,
No, Chess Wizards.
Chest Wizards.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to give it 3 Huskies.
3
I'll give it
Huskies.
3 because it looked good for a film that was made in 82. I'll give it its due for that.
Yeah, because it's 40 years old now.
Yeah.
Which is weird to think of, that this film is 40 years old and still looks like
it
that.
looks good, yeah.
It does. It does. And interestingly, you mentioned Huskies, because I think that might actually be the first time in my life I've ever seen a worn-out Husky.
Yeah, they were sleepy.
I've never in my life seen a worn-out Husky.
Because he was
They
running
just
from
have
a
so much
helicopter.
energy. Yeah. But there you have it. John Carpenter's The Thing gets 3 Huskies from Amber and 4 Chess Wizards from me. But what do you all out there listening think? Do you think that John Carpenter's The Thing is a classic piece of sci-fi horror, the likes of which it has been incredibly hard to replicate, pun intended, since that point? Or are you a bit like Amber? Do you reckon that it went on a bit long? Do you reckon it was a little bit boring? Do you reckon it was a little bit slow, but still kind of looked good for how old it was? Who would you be most suspicious of if you were trapped in an Arctic research station with...
Antarctic.
Antarctic! It's the one without the bears. Free fact for you. That's why it's called Antarctic, because there are no bears there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, David Attenborough.
Thank you, David Attenborough.
Thank you, David
Attenborough. David Attenborough, thank you. Thank you. All of these and more can be sent to us on our social medias. And if you've got a suggestion for any horror films we could watch in the future, then please do feel free to send them our way. Maybe if it's a big enough masterpiece of horror that isn't The Exorcist, then maybe we'll get around to watching it at some point. We are going to try and put off watching The Exorcist as long as possible, because that's just a big nope from me. But all of these and more can be sent to us on our social medias. I am at Drew Bridger.
At Amberin.
And make sure that you use the hashtag BTTRpod when you are talking about us on the internet, so that we know when we're being talked about. Amber, if the listeners have enjoyed this special
spooky episode of Back to the Reviewcha. What else should they do?
Like, subscribe, and review on your podcast service and rate 5 stars. Also follow at BTTR Podcast on Instagram.
Yes, Instagram. And do make sure that you leave us those reviews, because if we do have some reviews on our podcast services come in, we might well read it out on our show and give you a lovely little shout out for taking some time to write some nice words about us that warm our cold, dead hearts. But until our next episode and potentially next Halloween, Amber, there's just a quick test that I want to run on you. I hope you don't mind if I cut one of your fingers.
I do mind, actually.
Oh, okay. I mean, the amount of cuts that I've got on all of my fingers, I think we've drawn enough blood from me to know that I'm not an alien
No, because we didn't
imposter.
test it.
All right. Well, okay. Maybe we should have tested it.
Too late now.
Can I test your blood?
No.
That makes me very suspicious.
That's fine.
Okay, I'm a little bit suspicious of you now.
You can be
So maybe you out there listening should just bear in mind that Amber maybe shouldn't be trusted. That's all I'm thinking. Can you be trusted, Amber?
Depends who you are.
Just